one thing that that you have taught me as an influencer before I have known you.
As an influencer?
Yes.
Okay.
Was being okay with someone that disagrees with you, even when you kind of see that they are just stupid or just wrong, plain wrong. Like even if they're wrong, they have the freedom to be wrong.
Okay.
And although I kind of knew that, but I did not really apply it to my life before I saw your story.
That's a good point.
And when you saw your story, I was like, ooh, okay. I was very, very harsh with some of my friends. So yeah, that is one thing that you have taught me.
That's great.
What have I taught you?
Wait, let's stop on that for a second.
Okay.
What do you think makes people so authoritarian if they consider another opinion to be wrong? I mean, okay, Kane, there's a certain context here, okay? For example, if it is something that is like scientifically very clear, I mean, there is no debate on the issue.
Like Corona, not and protecting yourself against it, etc. Even that isn't like that scientific.
Even then, I mean, there are varying opinions. I mean, some people يقول لك okay ما كاش couvre-feu وما كاش confinement. يقول لك there's a virus, okay, it's out there, let's just coexist with it and continue. By the way, which opinion are you on that? Are you the opinion تاع نقعدوا في الدار, let's be safe, close everything, ولا let's go out, ولا is there a sweet spot?
I think this is such a kind of heavy, dangerous matter. That I'm kind of afraid of giving an opinion and then causing people to die. So on the one hand, I don't want to be stuck at home, and I don't want people to be stuck at home because that is kind of against progress. That stops people from working, that stops people from being productive, that stops people from
making a living. It's not about being productive. Parce que شغل كي بدا مع الأول confinement, we had these like rich celebrities telling us to stay home. Bon, معليش at first كنا تلمو كامل خايفين. شغل we had to stay home because there was we didn't know where this could go. Mais there's a certain luxury about staying home. Parce que at a certain point, خلاص ولنا قاعد راهم خو. We gotta go out again and make some money.
It happened to me.
Yeah, and so at this point, it wasn't a sustainable solution. It was confinement باش نخلو الوقت للمستشفيات to catch up.
Yes.
It wasn't supposed to be قاعد نقعدوا في الدار forever, which is what's happening in California, I think. مازالهم confining.
I don't know
France
what's happening.
as well.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with California, but if you do confinement for like 6 months, that's already a lot. Yeah. And that's already a lot of time for the health system to catch up with the virus.
Yeah.
And so I think we shouldn't do confinement anymore, or we shouldn't stay at home.
عندنا curfew. يعني.
Yeah. I think even putting a mask on should be kind of a choice.
Really? That's a very interesting point. بصح اللي يقول لك لازم تدير الماسك, it's because it's not about just what affects you, because if you have the virus احتاديني, so لابسة تتعدى حريات الآخرين.
If you're afraid, put a mask. Put a mask yourself.
Okay, if you صح you put a mask, بصح there's less chances of you getting infected if the other person has a mask as well.
Well, the chances are so affected by randomness, and they are so affected by there's never going to be zero chance.
Okay.
And it has been proven that putting some tissue like clothing on your mouth and nose actually protects you from being
Is this approved by the WHO?
I have no idea what the WHO was, but I know that
it's the World Health Organization.
Yeah, there has been an incident. So this is while Corona was kind of serious, and so it was an airplane, and one of the passengers was coughing a lot, and everybody right away knew that it was he was having Corona.
Freaked out.
And so everybody wore their masks, and he did too. Some people did not have masks, but he did have a mask, and he wore his mask. And then when they landed, they actually tested them, and the guy who was coughing a lot had Corona, and the other people did not.
Okay.
And even later, they tested them again, and they were still negative. So they did not catch the virus, either because they were wearing masks or because they were sitting away enough from him. So,
but obviously, ما نقدروش نقيسوا everything on an isolated incident.
Yes.
That's not how
absolutely,
research works.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's an interesting.
I think we can.
And now, mentally, I'm just done with the whole thing. I'm ready to get over it.
Yes,
I'm ready to move on.
Me too.
Yeah, wear masks, stay away from each other.
Actually, right over there. We are right near the Frans Fanon Hospital, right? Okay. Yes, and there's a new cemetery that was built just for the corona deaths.
Yeah,
and just this morning I drove past it and I saw how many there are a lot of graves. Yes, and it's been only 1 year.
Wow.
So you just see how many graves in just this area, as opposed to seeing like a number which is 1,000. It doesn't mean much. So yes, it is a real danger.
Okay. Danger. Okay.
Can you
read some of your questions?
I actually can't because I'm using my phone to
record. Shit. Well, that was not very bright of you, Mr. Mechanical Engineer.
I don't have a choice, actually.
Okay, another question. She said, I want to hear you both talking about what you think about our generation, the good and the bad side.
Okay. I would like to talk about that.
Okay, what do I think the good side of our generation is? I think we have been opposed to الجينيراسيون اللي قبلنا وين نهضر هنا على لي زالجيريان مانيش نهضر على the entire world باسكو the entire world هيكا وحنا رانا شغل هكا baby steps تتحلب انا نتقشروا بالعقل. I guess the advantage that we have is internet. And it has opened up a new world on us. وهذاك النهار كنت نهضر مع one of my friends who is ماشي جينيراسيون تاعنا. Bon, you're a little bit older than me. But she's like in her 30s. And she's a francophone, and you can tell her بتقاف هذوك generation they were all francophones. And then she was like, Kane, this new generation that's coming that because usually francophones are very snobby and like elitist, and you can link. You can find the link between being a francophone and being financially more privileged. Okay. Typically, I mean, we don't have data on that. We should, but there is a link.
Khansa, we should.
Khansa, come on, do your job, girl. I mean, there is a link for that. And then this new generation that did not fit مع les francophones, but also did not fit مع les arabophones, and they became anglophones.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And like they are, growing older, and they are completely revolutionizing this country. And although they are typically not financially privileged, but they are exposed to an entire new world. Even the francophones who acted as elites are not exposed to because of the language barrier. And هذه العفسة اللي I guess internet مدتها لنا as an advantage is that we know what's going on in the world. We have access to education, to seeing how the world is functioning, how people are demanding their rights and the privileges that they have that we could have as well. So بدنا نتحلبوا حرفيا to put it in simpler words. And that's, I would say, the good thing about our generation.
Okay.
What would you say?
So I have been privileged enough to have seen things through both lenses of being a francophone and being one of those guys who have learned English when he was a teenager. And then English has opened some doors for him and the internet, etc. Yes, Rahmani Amin has been...
Ego. Stonks.
Yes, the third person. And up until I was 16 or 17, I could not understand English. So I knew how English worked. I knew some grammar. I had the education of high school, etc. But I could not watch like Harry Potter in English. It was impossible for me. So I was kind of raised with French TV. And I knew very well how the French society worked through their TV and through the movies, etc. Through the music, for example. I would listen to French music a lot. But then I kind of started understanding English. And And yes, the word is تحلبت. Like when I say
that's good. So you have a different experience from
yes.
me. You saw yourself transition from being in, I guess, a francophone culture environment bubble to an anglophone one.
Yes, I actually added the bubble, the anglophone bubble to my francophone bubble.
How does that feel? How did you feel?
And you know, I started with العربية بتزايل و MBC etc. And then I added the French TV and the French culture etc. to my own culture, and then I entered later the English culture, and it was like opening the window of a room, of a dark room.
Really?
To me, at some point, the francophone world was like a very, very small and claustrophobic place compared to the anglophonic world. I'm gonna give just a small example that I relate to.
Okay.
For example, in order to see what's happening with the world of with the automotive world, with the world of cars.
Okay.
When I was young,
gosh, you love cars, right?
Yes. When I was young, I had to watch Turbo.
You had to watch
M6, the show Turbo on M6. And to me, that show was yes.
خوتي.
But اللي كانوا عندهم M6 على بالهم, they know what I'm talking about.
Okay. And I grew up watching Hannah Montana being you get the camera.
And by the way,
front.
I'm talking about this was happening while you were not yet a teenager. When I was watching
شنو الكلاش هذا وشنو هاد الشر هادي.
I'm just saying I'm much older than not much.
شحال عمرك نتايا؟
28. 28
بيناتنا literally 4 سنين اجاك جديد عليها.
Yes, I was 12 and you were 8 years old. So you were watching Hannah Montana
I hit
later.
puberty pretty early, so I probably looked your age when I was 8, but whatever.
Okay. Anyway, and yeah, the show Turbo was like as much as I could نتحلب فيه when it comes to cars.
It was limited.
Yes, and then I discovered Top Gear. You know the show, right? With Jeremy Clarkson, James May, and Richard Hammond.
Of course.
And
you decided to chime in now. اسمع Top Gear. أنا Top Gear رباني.
Yes.
I fucking love Top Gear.
هم اللي حلبوني. Like I learned English with them. I learned English.
British. They're British.
Yes. Kind of.
Kind of. They are British. No, kind of.
Oh, you said, am I? Well, I have been. I was opened up to the British culture more than the American.
Okay.
Because of that show, and I've learned. Don't worry, it's not gonna be on the audio. And I've learned the English humor. Which I found,
which is actually the British humor is similar to French humor. جاية dry وجاية شغل لي كلاش شغل sometimes نكون نهضر with francophones and I understand باللي it's a French humor بصح their humor شغلهم يكلاشيو فيك بصح actually it's just humor. Americans don't do that. Americans are very like ha 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 funny. Europeans in general, soit les Anglais ou les Français, they have that dry British humor.
They exaggerate. The British people, not the French. They use exaggeration in their humor. They use
hyperbole.
Yes, they use analogies.
Analogies, yeah.
Yes, which I find even now hilarious.
Yeah, to me, analogies is like how I judge how interesting the person is. لو كان نقعد مع واحد and I make a joke and I put like a reference from a movie ولا a song وما يفهموهاش, I'm like, okay, zap.
You need to catch up. Yeah. You like
and this is how I decide friends, if they can understand my analogies.
This is how I decide who's gonna be my guest.
Literally هكذا درت له casting من رحماني كعرفته. I was like, let me just throw in little references, and he understood every single one of them.
Did I?
Yeah, you're pretty good. You're pretty decent.
Yeah,
you're okay.
So
although kind of phase, you are cooler than me فيهم. Like you listen to a lot of rock music, which I don't.
I'm like a combination of you and Sarah Kont.
Oh my god, that is such.
Yeah.
That is a good thing. Wow.
So شفتي كيفاش Sarah Kont is like francophone.
Yeah.
I can enter her world of francophone and speak with her in French, etc. And I can enter your world of anglophone and speak with you in English and understand both of your references.
That is very interesting.
And I'm a boy, I'm not a girl.
And you're a boy. So أنا أخر منكم by default. ما نسحقش كاع هاد الزيادة هذه. So what is the bad?
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say one more thing. So I thought that on the scale of civilization, I thought the English were more advanced than the French.
Okay.
And then the Arabs, of course. So
the Arabs.
Yes.
And I think the Arab world maybe is a little underrated. Don't you think?
I mean,
some amazing Arab thinkers. مي وشنو الانفايرمنت ما تسمحلكش for example like نجيب محفوظ العفايس the controversial stuff اللي كان لازم يهضر عليهم ما كانش يقدر يهضر عليهم in the same open way that someone في فرنسا ولا في المانيا كان يقدر يهضر عليهم.
So you mean it's censored?
Of course he's censored. He was censored. He was stabbed because he wrote a story, a novel that الناس كي قراوها understood باللي this is trying to reference God and everyone and disciples.
So when it comes to the civilization
كيفاش يقولوا العباد بالانجلي disciples because like literally العبد is the slave ما يقولوش slave.
The disciple هو اللي تقري فيه your pupil.
So the disciple is to Jesus. I mean in English. يقول لك Jesus.
The disciple en français.
Yeah, Jesus and the disciples. ما ما باليش وشنو exactly.
The subjects. Not the subjects, no. They're the slaves.
عبد is a slave. ما نقولوش slave to God. Slave to God, no.
we're gonna اسمع جيمي.
يا جيمي حرك روحك شوية. سينما ستيشن. أنا درنا لك shout out. To motivate you. Follow Cinema Station.
So I also agree with you about the internet freeing our younger generation. اكتبها in English وخلي جوجل يترجمها يسجمها لك يصحح لك.
نوروا لك كيفاش دير fucking research man.
صحيح. Slave to God, subject to God also works.
أنا العبد الضعيف. أنا العبد
الفقير. اكتب أنا العبد الضعيف Google Translate وشوف وش جيب. Slave to God, yeah.
It's not. You can't trust Google Translate.
Yes, and I think.
Come on, you guys are smarter than that.
I think it's not just English that is giving us hope in the new generation. It's just
definitely not English. English is a tool.
It's a tool, yeah.
It's a tool. parce que هذه العفسة لازم نكونوا very precise فيها. parce que الناس يبدأوا games of inferiority complexes when it comes to languages.
Yes.
Like les arabophones complexים les francophones, les francophones complexים منا. And it's just like a fucking vicious cycle. حنا كي نقولوا English for me is a tool. It's a tool. It's a means to an end.
Yes.
It's not about speaking English or whatever.
In some areas, the English tool works better than the French and the Arab tool.
Yeah.
And other areas, the Arabic tool works better than the English and French, etc.
And how so?
How so? So if you want to learn, for example, physics, use English, not French and not Arabic. See what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to learn about art, you kind of need a bit of French, like not very old art.
It would be preferable if you also speak French.
If you want to learn, for example, religion, you definitely need Arabic, right? Yes.
You can learn a lot about
and other things in Arabic. So
أنا أقول it's a good plus. like حاب تقول. It's a good plus to have, of course.
Yes.
So languages are always a good
and
plus.
when it comes to the scale of civilization, at some point in my life I started reading ألف ليلة وليلة.
Okay.
And I totally thought that the people that were the protagonists of ألف ليلة وليلة were more civilized than the most civilized people today. If you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Of course they kind of cut heads, etc. But their way of living, their way of seeing things, their comment on life, etc. I found that extremely interesting.
Okay.
And so I stopped underestimating the people who came before us, or the people who spoke Arabic when I started reading ألف ليلة وليلة. I thought it was super clever.
Okay, but when you say people who speak Arabic, how many people speak Arabic? Not a lot.
In Algeria, yes.
No, in the entire Arab world. I'm sure a lot of people understand Arabic because كامل قريناها. Being able to speak Arabic fluently, we need data on that. We need data on that. خنسة خدمة.
Yes.
We definitely need data on that. How can we need to know شحال من العالم العربي شحال فيهم بنادم? How much? Like 300 million?
I think a billion or two. Almost 2
Arab
billion.
world.
Well, there are 2 billion official Muslims. 2 billion official Muslims. 1.5 billion.
Muslim.
Well, we can subtract from that. You subtract from that some Indians and some Indonesians, etc. And then you keep the Arabs. Of course. Yes.
صح قلنا the Arab speaking world.
It's an approximation.
Boys عشان كنت ديروا لي هكا.
جيمي خدم خدمتك.
صح. Arab speaking
people.
number. شو هدي أفتح دخان لها في الإنجليزي literally طابي anything يخرج لك anything. I was the closest قلت لك 300 million. It's 420 million.
Okay, I'm not included.
Yeah, 420 million Arabic وشنو Arabic speaking population. 30 different dialects. 30 different dialects. So من بين هادوما في 420 مليون person في العالم المتحدث باللغة العربية باسكو ديجا كي تقول العالم العربي وإحنا ماشي عرب وإحنا How do you feel about that, by the way?
Yeah, I consider myself Amazigh. Like as ethnicity. Yeah, I am totally.
As ethnicity, بصح do you deny that Arab is a part of your identity?
I'm gonna remove this from the podcast, but
unless you would remove it. This is a very legitimate point.
Someone said to me. Someone said to me.
Okay. Okay, أنا ما نحبش هذيك تاع زعما وإحنا غير أمازيغ وإحنا غير عرب وإحنا خريا كمان. No one. أقسم بالله مقود علينا كامل جنرال.
Of course, yes, but I think it's important to not forget our history as Amazigh.
بصح كي تقول our شكون our؟
كيراب مش أنا نقولها لك
شكون our؟ راك حاب تقول the history of the land. That's what you mean. باللي Amazighs were here first. That is a very legitimate point.
For example, Celtics to Europe. The Celtics are considered to be the ancestors of the Germans and the French, etc. And the Gauls are considered to even though maybe they're not really their ancestors. Okay? So because they lived in the same land, they share that bond. And it's important, Rania, let me explain to you why. كي لحقنا Okay, Europe went through the Dark Ages, right? And then what happened? The Europeans kind of thought, especially the Italians, they thought, okay, our ancestors were Romans, and they conquered the world, and they built really, really huge buildings and stuff like that, right? Why aren't we doing the same? We can do the same because those are our ancestors. We share their blood. See what I mean? This is why it's important. Well, of course, we'd never had really a big civilization هنايا في الجزائر.
Well, unless you identify as Arab, and then you would say our ancestors made it all the way from Jazira Arabia to here.
That I don't know. You could identify as Andalusi because a lot of Andalusians.
Andalusi? What is wrong with you, Amin Rahmani? Okay. I know when it comes to identity, شوف Europeans have it much more simpler and much less controversial. بس يقول لك we are Europeans من الآخر يتبعوا القارة ما كاش another part of identity. You know what I mean?
Okay.
شو إحنا it would be much simpler if you can just say African Algerian من الآخر ني Arab ني Amazigh. This doesn't mean deny.
Speak.
Speak. Stick.
لا طلعته out yeah anyway talk.
So as I was saying, it's they have it much simpler باسكو هما they just identify as a part of the continent. ما كاش نقاش. فرنسا is in Europe. ما كاش زوج يتناقشوا فيها. بصح when it comes to us عربي أمازيغي and no one can know 100% what are they and no one is 100% one thing. So خلينا من النقاش العقيم.
شفتي هذاك النقاش تاع اسكو انا أمازيغي ولا ماشي أمازيغي. It exists in Europe. Except ماشي دايرين عليه حالة كيما احنا بالك دايرين عليه حالة.
باسكو actually they have better things.
If you go, for example, if you look at the comic book Asterix et Obélix. سمع به. Asterix et Obélix.
No.
Asterix et Obélix are two Gauls. You know what a Gaul is? The ancestors of the French.
Okay.
And the Gauls were persecuted by Caesar. Actually, Caesar did like a kind of a Holocaust in Europe. He killed a third of the population and he persecuted another third. And ملحقت to the third. But anyway, the Gauls were persecuted and killed and kind of removed from existence by the Romans. And so there's this guy in the 1970s who made a comic about one Gaul tribe. A comic book. Yes. About one Gaul tribe that had a potion that gave them superhuman power. And so with that superhuman power, they were able to give back to the Romans what they deserve, if you see what I mean. Even though it happened 2,000 years ago, people were still affected by it in France in the 1970s. Do you see?
Okay.
And it is important.
Yeah, I mean that is on a much smaller scale than when it happens here.
Making a big deal out of it.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you definitely have much more important things to focus on.
And you can never know who your ancestor was.
Okay.
Yes, and of course there has been a lot of incest, Bakri, etc. So.
Oh God. Okay. Another question would be, I think this would be the last question, which is, please talk about self-discipline and procrastination. From 1 to 10, how self-disciplined are you?
I think when I'm very, very passionate about something, and when I see like a long-term goal about it, I become automatically very self-disciplined and very focused. Well, I think self-discipline and the lack of procrastination comes with focus. And focus only comes with things that you consider internally worth your focus, your attention. Concentration. Yes. For example, this podcast, I would cancel anything that happens in my life in order to record a podcast.
Okay. So you're not going to procrastinate it.
Yes, I'm not going to procrastinate.
Is self-discipline something in your DNA, or is it something that is acquired?
I think a bit of both. Your DNA always affects your behavior, etc. But as I've learned, empathy, there is not much room for development. It's just in you. If you can improve much, it would be like a maximum 2 or 3%, but you cannot really work on empathy that much. That's still very debatable.
You think so?
Yeah. A lot of very successful people were people who forced themselves to work hard and to be focused,
to self-discipline.
And they found something that is worth their focus.
So they did not force themselves. هي اسمها self-discipline. هي by definition, it's you forcing yourself. ما كاش another version of self-discipline. It's one thing. It's you forcing yourself. بصح, is it something that is acquired? For example, your parents, you live with very attentive parents who teach you how to be disciplined. And then من تماك ترفد الحرفة كما يقولوا, and you continue. And if your parents don't give you that, how much room do you have for improvement? لحقت في عمرك 20 سنة. Because I get a lot of these messages, which is people يدخلوا to a certain age, they become self-aware, ولا يكمباريو روحهم بالناس واحد آخرين, and they realize, shit, my parents did not give me much life skills that I can work with. And so they find themselves lacking these skills. Should they bother to develop them? Or is it just something too late?
No. I think nothing is ever too late, even when you're 60 years old. So this is just a personal belief, Rania. Like, I can't go out there and test this, except if Khansa would.
I'm sure. Well, Khansa is not a fucking scientist, but I'm sure there's science on that where we can.
Of course, but even that kind of science is based on very how do we say something that doesn't change? حاجة اللي تبدل بزاف. It's too random for us to really find a pattern.
Okay,
do you see what I mean? Like for example, if you
schools actually كاين قال لك البنادم يقدر يتبدل, وكاين قال لك لا البنادم فاسد المحاور المجتمع ولا غاص نخليه
سك مخير ومسير.
Yeah. So we can't really. All I can do is believe that I can do better.
So how can you self-discipline How can you self-discipline? من الآخر. How can you become? Is it كما قلت finding the things that interest you باش تماك self-discipline becomes naturally. باسكو ما تقدرش تفورسي. Like just enjoying stuff. And can stuff that you're not supposed to enjoy. You just do them because you have to.
Yeah. For example, I know a lot of friends, people who are my age. They were, for example, gamers. They played till 4 a.m. in the morning. They did not work very hard, etc., etc. They did not make a lot of money.
Yeah.
When they got married, they automatically became super disciplined because they knew the repercussions of
being a lousy husband
would be. They would lose whatever they have and whatever they love.
I see what you mean.
So yes, I think if you find a good reason to be disciplined or something that is worth being disciplined about, you would automatically be disciplined about it. And for example, today you told me you're going to do a podcast, and I came to Blida to do the podcast although I was very tired and I thought about cancelling it like 3 or 4 times, and I
Thank
had
you.
other plans.
I feel special.
Yeah. And I did not because I knew that this is important.
So you are disciplined, you mean? ولا حشمت بك تعيط لي وتقول لي I have to cancel.
A bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Really. Well,
so you're a people pleaser.
I never decided to call you. I never thought about calling you.
ما لحقتش تخمم ما لحقش لهداك
النقطة. لا بس زعما لحق لهداك التخمام. I would have been embarrassed as I would have been with anyone. Like cancelling plans is not very cool.
Okay. Yeah, but I still think largely the reason was you not wanting to cancel on me because I came all the way to Blida, and the other thing was that you were not maybe that tired. You were just a little bit tired. But if
I was destroyed, I would have told you.
Yeah. But it's self-discipline, doing things although you are destroyed. It's like pushing yourself to the limits.
Will you have to? You need to find you need to find something that is worth doing while you are destroyed. For example, إذا عندي exam غدوة, I would نقرأ وما نرقدش, right? Because I know my future is in play here.
Actually, self-discipline would be تقرأ باش تقرأ ما قبل باش ماشي كي تلحق الليلة تصهر تلفزيون.
I'm the wrong example.
Yeah, because that would be procrastinating, leaving it حتى الليلة. And procrastination happens because you're stressed. Because your mind is very stressed.
It's actually called the student syndrome.
Okay.
And à ce qui paraît, students actually ايش يقول لك بلي انا ما نقدرش نقرا كي ما يكونش كاينه لا بريسيون. And it's true, it happened to me too. ان شاء الله 5 شهور قبل الجامعة I thought نحشيها له نبدا نقرا من الدوك. But I never could focus on القرايه. But then كي تشوف بلي الاكزام خلاص او الحق, actually a lot of hormones and a lot of shit goes on in our brain, including
it's fight or flight mode.
Yeah,
it's like survival mode,
including cocaine. You start finding like molecules that exist in cocaine naturally. Okay, so this is the last question.
I think that is the last question. How much time do we have? I'm just really tired. I'm so sorry. You're equally as tired, aren't we? We've had a very long day. بغدوة رمضان. صحة رمضانكم. صحة رمضانك. Are you excited for Ramadan?
Well, I'm not excited for not being able to eat, but I'm excited for الفطار والشربة هذيك والبورك.
Oh, الشربة والبورك. Me too. I'm excited about that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you guys. Bye.
Goodbye, Rania.